The oldest building in the village is St Cadocs Church, and presumably the first time you went in there was to be christened.
Yes, that's right.
When was that?
It was on April the 1st, 1903.
And that would be by the vicar at the time, Reverend Shelley Plant.
No, the vicar before him, the Reverend Matthew Perkins.
Ah, yes. Yes, I think they changed in that year, 1903.
Yes.
I've got a booklet here, which I obtained from St Cadocs Church, which lists all the vicars since, in fact, the year 1560. And in 1903, the year we're talking about, the Reverend Matthew Perkins was succeeded by the Reverend Plant, Shelley Plant.
That's right, yes.
He that was to be christened.
Yes.
St Cadocs Church. St Cadocs Church building in the oldest building in the village is St Cadocs Church, and presumably the first time you went in there was to be christened.
Yes, that's right.
When was that?
It was on April the 1st, 1903.
And that would be by the vicar at the time, Reverend Shelley Plant.
No, the vicar before him, the Reverend Matthew Perkins.
Ah, yes. Yes, I think they changed in that year, 1903.
Yes.
I've got a booklet here, which I obtained from St Cadocs Church, which lists all the vicars since, in fact, the year 1560. And in 1903, the year we're talking about, the Reverend Matthew Perkins was succeeded by the Reverend Plant, Shelley Plant.
That's right, yes.
He was at St Cadocs for 21 years until the Reverend David Sproul.
Yes.
Do you remember the Reverend Plant very well?
I do. I was in the choir when the Reverend Plant was vicar.
Was he a disciplinarian like your schoolmaster?
Oh yes, he was.
I remember you saying earlier that there were 12 of you in the choir.
Yes, there were 12 boys.
Were you ever referred to as the apostles?
No, well, I don't think so.
You probably didn't merit that. Did you receive any reward for singing in the choir?
Yes, we used to get 8 day service.
So that would be a penny on a Sunday for morning and evening service.
Yes, that's right. And we used to be paid out at Easter, and we used to get 5 shillings. And the one with the most attendance is 6pence extra.
So you had a target to aim for?
Yes.
Can I ask if you ever got the 6pence?
I did, yes.
Often?
Yes, often.
Oh, well.
I had never less than 48 attendance. 48 Sundays.
Good. Now, in, as I said, 1924, the Reverend David Sproul came to the church, and then he was succeeded in 1928 by the Reverend Thomas Wright.
Yes.
Do you remember him?
Yes, I remember them all.
And again, he was there for 11 years, and the Reverend Charles Duck arrived in 1939.
That's right, yes.
Going on from there, 1952, the Reverend William Price.
Yes.
And then in 1958, the Reverend Arthur Blake.
Yes, Arthur Blake, that's right, yes.
Now, I think the Reverend Blake has some distinction.
Oh, yes. He was made a canon, and that was the first canon in Raglan.
I see. And he was there until 1975 when our present vicar, Peter Gower, arrived. And he was on May the 19th, 1975.
Yes.
I dare not ask you to comment on him. regarding the fabric of the church, the building itself, are there any alterations, or were there any alterations made from the time that you were a boy up to date?
No, I don't think there were any, no major operations. We turned over from oil lamps to electricity when we had the electric through here.
That would be about 1950.
Somewhere around 1950, 51 or 52. And then we had the organ pumped by electricity, which I used to blow by hand, which was quite a hard job.
You progressed to this after you left the choir, after your voice?
Yes, after I left the choir, they needed an organ blower. So the vicar asked me to take it over, and I blew the organ for about 16 or 17 years, until it was electrified. And just as the organ was electrified, the old verger who had been verger for 40 years died, and the vicar at that time, the Reverend D.J. Sproul, he asked me if I would be his verger.
You mentioned the previous verger. What can you tell me about him?
Mr. William Morgan was the previous verger. He was a Morgan as well. And he was
any relation?
No relation at all. But he was he used to he very lived at the church.
And how long had he been verger?
He'd been verger for 40 years.
Is any member of his family still living?
Yes,
in the village?
Yes, he got a son and daughter still living in the village.
So you took over as verger in 1949, about?
Somewhere around 49, that's right, yes.
That's when the old verger, Mr. Morgan, died?
Yes.
The other Mr. Morgan?
Yes, the other Mr. Morgan died.
So in fact, you've been doing it for nearly 40 years.
Yes, close on 40 years now.
So it would appear that we've only had pretty well 2 vergers in the whole of this century.
Yes.
As far as we've gone. Now,
There's only been 2 vergers on record. There's never no mention of a verger before Mr. Morgan.
I see. He was the first person to be appointed verger ever.
I should think so, yes.
So all the other duties that he did, and which you do now, were performed by other people
yes, that's right.
Possibly church wardens or...
Oh, yes, church warden people went to church, like the other small churches around here.
And when you took over, what did your duties entail as verger?
Well, I was working at the time, and when possible, I used to attend funerals, weddings.
And you would sort of make sure the church was unlocked.
Oh, yes,
most important.
yes.
Make sure that all the books were available.
That's about 30 years, give or take a
Lighting
month.
the candles?
Yeah, light the candles on the altar. We did have a lamp lighter to look after the lamps, fill the lamps and light them.
That was his specific job.
Yes, that was their specific job.
But when electricity came in, he was redundant.
Oh yes, they became redundant then.